back to another episode of Shadow Fang's Expanded Moba. I built a Moba in my main series, and this series is kind of a spin-off that just kind of covers certain script sets. I'll call them sets, which are essentially groups of scripts, and it basically covers them and how they work, and the reason I made certain ones of them, and little tricks and stuff that I don't really talk a lot about on the main thing. And the main thing is just showing you how to. This kind of explains the process. This is fully script focused, all this stuff. I will, however, give you the example that is given in my Explainer Mode series, in my Builder Mode series. But a series I won't be showing you how to build the UI aspect of it. So if we start, we see this is what we have. Obviously, ignore all this stuff, but you can look at the HP minor bar as you see as I buy things. So you can right click to buy. Obviously, there's a little tooltip that appears, and when you have this item, you can obviously look at here, but you can also undo it, or you can choose to sell it. Either or is fine. If you undo the last action. So, for example, if I undo this, obviously I undo sell, but for example, if I... Yep, I see that, I could undo it again. You can kind of, so if I bought this item here, as you see, not only can I undo this, I can't do anything else. But what I can also do is if I sold it, I could undo the selling. And then if I can apparently undo the buying because of how it works. But that's a little iffy whether or not you want them to be able to sell it, and then undo the sell, and then undo the buy that they've just done. That's what I would call quality of life features, where essentially the feature isn't really needed. Like, it works fine, there's no extra little bug thing, but it is maybe something that you don't want them to be able to do. Maybe there could be a bug later down the line involved with that, but right now it's fine, it works perfectly. But yeah, so not only that, but you can also have items built into others. So one thing you will notice whenever I buy this item goes cheaper. It's because this item builds into this one. So this one costs 10 gold to buy, but also requires every item previous. So if you don't have those items, it'll buy it for you, and then obviously mix them together. Otherwise, it requires you to obviously buy the previous items. So if I bought this, I could then buy this. This is very useful in games where you want like a kind of almost like an upgrade system. So you want the player to feel like they always have enough money for something, but they don't get these super powerful items. So, you know, if you've got a big sword, you know, maybe you could have a smaller sword with a crystal or something. So that way your players always feel like they have a positive experience, and whenever they die, they always feel like they're getting better. And that's really, really important. A lot of games even just don't have that, and that's massive. You really, really, really need to have the ability for players to feel like they're always getting stronger. One of the best ways is to simply just have this upgrade system. It's very useful. Obviously, as you see, if I upgrade this, if I undo it, I can actually undo the upgrade, and then obviously undo the item I just bought. If you guys are wondering how do I clear the undo system, well, that's up to you. Obviously, some games want unclear it certainly, but you can just literally just go undo.clear. I'll show you how to do it, and it will just clear everything, right? It's a list. It's quite simple. This gold thing is a little mucked up. I know why. I will quickly fix it just for you guys, just so you can kind of make it seem a little bit nicer. Text. This is what we want, and it's just because we have one too many space bars. So we may go text 100, 1000, and then that means that now we can just kind of copy this a little bit here. Oh, sorry. And then that will fix that little almost error kind of thing. Now that's not it. You can also have recommended items, as you see. So these items can be very useful for things like MOBAs, when you want to kind of say what, like an order, a good starting order. So you could say, well, you could start off with 2 of these, and then you want to rush one of these. Obviously, this makes no sense since these items are more expensive or whatever, but you kind of get the idea. The fact that you can have your own headings, and you can obviously have capitals or whatever. Because it's all coded, you can actually do HTML code. And by HTML code, I mean stuff like changing the color, changing the stuff. I didn't actually mean HTML. I believe it's CSS though. which is used for HTML. I believe that's the Unity text editing thing they've put in the API. So yeah, so that's it. Obviously it displays the price above it, the item. Obviously if you buy it, it's down here. You can obviously activate those. But that's basically, I mean, there's not too much else. Obviously, as you can tell, your stats do change. And I believe this one, yeah, this one still says pressed, okay. But I see I've got 200 and 150, and there would be a little timer, but because these things are quite small, it's kind of hidden in the timer. But that's not our problem here today, because we're not covering that system, we're only covering the shop system. You can also obviously search for items, as you can see here, and the item search here. This actually, when you search items, it will blank out. That's weird. Okay, that was not meant to happen. That's a bug. I hate when I find bugs in these series. Okay, so if you type something here and then switch over, it doesn't reset. Okay, that's pretty easy to fix. Yeah, that's very easy to fix. But obviously, if you type down here, you go new item, and then as soon as you clear it, it's gone. So we can go new item. Oh, did we hate when it's so small you can't read? So that it's just because the text inside this input field should be this, and it should be 1 to 40 and 1 to 40. Okay, there we go. And then now you should be able to go, yeah. So now we can see new item, and so it appears, and obviously that is a slight bug. So what we will do is we will say if you click on any one of these, then this is a very, very quick bug. It's maybe perhaps not the best, but hey, what can you do? Do we have a script that will turn off the where's update? There we go. So what we're doing is window to active self. If you've changed the text bar, yeah. Oh wait, what? If the text bar is equal to nothing, then you want to turn off the parent, and the parent search should be always off. I think it's just that look at the parent. I hate when this happens. Parent is item list. Oh yeah, you want to turn item list on, and you want to turn type box off. So that says if the stuff is equal to nothing, then you turn it off. Actually, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking this is actually what we kind of want. For me, honestly, I think this is fine. I think, well, it's not particularly nice and clean. I think it's still fine. I don't think I mind it, because I mean, if you type new item and go across, it doesn't really matter. It's only it's when you enter it. So see new item, do this. As soon as we close it, it will work. Which I guess is, you could say, is a little unclean, but it's not too hard. Obviously, if you want to do it, you can just deactivate the button whenever you press it. But obviously, if it's got content, it will reactivate, so you may have to make your own little void for that. Okay, so we'll go over the code. There's quite a few scripts, as you see. I definitely suggest you watch the stat script so you can understand how the stat system works. But literally, the stat system is only used for gold, so it's actually a very small part of this. Where stat space probably a bit more. I've kind of tried to put them in order of usability. So actually, items probably a bit up here. And then inventory manager is the same thing as stats. It's only for adding and removing items, which you could literally just have your own inventory manager for. But my inventory manager kind of works quite nicely with how this thing works. There is a few requirements if you're going to be using a few of the things to have a inventory manager that has some of these functionalities. One of them is essentially that your item script has to be this basically has to be the same. It has to be used for both shops and for your inventory. If it's used separately, then there can be problems. So you definitely want to have an inventory manager, probably what I have, or something similar. If you go do it, my one isn't. It doesn't have the whole equip system. That's quite easy to add, and it's not too hard. And especially in this new Unity thing, and I can always make a video on that if you guys want me to. So we'll go through the shop system. First, we have items, obviously, and the big differences is between this is you have obviously your textures, your IDs, your names, your item stats, Obviously, this is from the stat manager. Your whether or not it's currently active, and whether or not previously it was active or previously it was deactivated, so we can check whether or not you've actually changed or whether or not you've just stayed the same. And that's preventing things from constantly being added or constantly being removed. What inventory slot you're in, the key to press the item to activate it, the cooldown and the max cooldown, the recipe price, so how much it will cost for the item itself. So for example, in this thing, if we look at this item costs 10 but has a requirement of the previous items, so it actually costs 20 because this item costs 10. So both these recipe prices are 10, but because this requires this item, it does that thing. That was very explained poorly. Whether or not that item is currently bought, whether or not your this is your full price, so obviously the final price will go down as you buy more items, where the full price is just kind of a marker. So sometimes when we refund, we want to refund based off the full price, not the final price. And that's more benefit to the user, otherwise they could get a lot less money from it, though they would get a lot less money. Okay, non-serialized. You gotta make sure you have this non-serialized, obviously, because otherwise it bugs out of item. Doesn't like the fact that item has item inside item inside item. Mono developer really doesn't like that. It freaks out. Otherwise it won't work. So you can do system.non-serialized will fix that. And it's actually just an array of saying all the items that this builds into, which of course is in this case. Actually, I'm just gonna keep this running. This item builds into this item. And the reason this is down a bit is probably because it's just the setting is slightly off. That's fine. But this button builds into this item. The tooltip, obviously. Activate is like when you click it, we send a little message to the item, and this is only useful when you click here. So when I click this, it sends a message saying pressed. I can also press Q. I think Q is the item for this. I can't remember. We'll just go down here and just see. Q is the item. Let's see, it's obviously got a cooldown timer. You can obviously see the cooldown timer right here. This is what it would display if the text was a little bit smaller. Maybe we could say fit. Oh yeah, there you go, you can see it. That's pretty useful. We probably do that on all these, just so you can definitely see what it looks like. I don't know why I'm clicking on the text every time. These ones are deactivated because they were mucking up a bit, but that's fine. We won't bother about that, and we'll make them more best fit, and we'll make them 1 to 40. And then there we go. So now when we say it, you can actually definitely kind of see them a bit better. You see, you can see not only kick them, you can wait for the cooldown timer, or you can just click it. I believe the cooldown timer is there's as you see a problem here where they both queue. That is going to easily be fixed later on. That is just that's an inventory manager size, so it's not shop. But simply it's quite easy. It's just because it will use the same for abilities, so it's marked up. But it's quite easy to set your obviously remember this is a variable, so you can just go through each of your inventory managers each second and say, hey, you're on this slot, so that's your key. Pretty simple. This is my shop data, my shop instance. This is a singleton. Singletons are bad, but it's a great way for anything. It's the only way right now that items can actually access the shop and receive data from the shop. So really, that's the only way we can do it, unless we're giving it variables when we spawn one, which we could do, but it's a bit messy and stuff like that. And I just would rather just do it where it's a bit easier. A copy of the inventory manager. These are all the items that the shop has. So do you know how there's two columns? There's recommended and all items. This is all items. These are the parent. This is basically the parent of the little search bar, that little thing that pops up. This is basically just a way so we can turn that little search bar window thing off and on. The prefab for the object, for like the items, the window itself, like the shop main. The item names, very important for when we're searching. because we don't want capitals and stuff like that, and it's a bit better than this. This is the search bar itself, the parent search. Wait, what's this one then? Oh, so parent is actually the list of items. So these are all the items. So you know that, like, essentially, I'll show you. I don't know why I stopped it. This is parent here, this big kind of thing here with that holds all the items, where parent search is this window here that pops up. I probably should name them a bit better. Cached text is essentially the text that you store. Tooltip is the tooltip. It's actually the object itself, so we can turn it on, off and on, and stuff like that. Stats is the player stats. It's just a copy of the stat script, just so we can access it and do stuff with it. Copies, these are just essentially these little copy things that allow us, they just basically copy your inventory and allow us to sell things and do and stuff like that. Next transform is just this thing here, which eventually maybe you could have a little tree of all the building paths and stuff, but I haven't done that. And prefab next is those little objects that we spawn in, since they're slightly different. And don't worry guys, you can have multiple objects here. I just made it spawn in the middle because it looks nicer and it'll just kind of go along. Recommended. These are all the shop sets of all the recommendeds. I'll show you what shop sets are. Actually, why don't I show you now? So shop sets are essentially, let's undo set. Oh, okay, I made a different script, sorry. Shop sets are here. And essentially we have a list of items in each shop set, and we have a name of the shop set. Maybe you could have a description or whatever you want, but these are the basic things. So we could have, you know, shop set 1, starting, all the items in starting, and then what happens is essentially it will create those when you click recommended. And then we have a static go, which is essentially, I don't know if this is, I know I was doing a bunch of testing of Go. Go may not be useful. Go. Yeah. I don't think we're actually using Go. Oh, I don't mean just remove it. Sorry about that. I was like, oh no, I know. I was mucking around with a bunch of things. Then we can check back here. Oh, there's no problems. Does require us to restart. Obviously, things muck up because of how they're built. Okay, so obviously that, and then other name is essentially the other name that they can be called by, because they can be called by many names, so you can kind of have two names. I know this is a bit confusing. I'll explain the whole name thing in a once I'm done this part. Mode, it's very important that you got the gen set, because that allows us to set it through things like essentially mode is whether or not we're in the recommended or items. So those little buttons there, as see they can access, and we can only access this little thing here due to the fact that it's got that gen set. And it also means that we can't actually see it. So that is kind of annoying, but it's just what happens. Parent 2 is essentially the, I forget all these scripts, or not these scripts, but what the parent 2 is recommended. Oh, parent 2 is all the recommendeds, obviously, and panel count is all the amount of panels we have, which are essentially all these panel things. And the transform parents is just a list of all the parents here, I believe. And the prefab panel is a just a copy of this prefab panel here, so I can show you. Obviously all these panels you have to create yourself, but if you see panel 0 is this, and it's got text in it which doesn't, oh yeah, because this is the kind of text thing here. So there we go, that's essentially it. Nothing else really to it in that instance. And then we got undo options, because you bought your item or you sold your item. I could do true or false or whatever. And then we have a list of undo sets, which is essentially saying, well, what did you do? Did you buy it or you sell it? What item did you change? Essentially, it's not really item change, it's like the new item. So if you just bought something, what item did you buy? If you just sold saying, what item did you sell? Changed is pretty, it's mediocre. And then the prior items, this is only used when we're upgrading items, so we can kind of backtrack. And then obviously that's just that. We do have a slight problem because I put like a Yeah, I put an X. There we go. Okay. Shop instance is true. This is a singleton thing, just so anything can access it because it's static, so we don't actually need a reference to the class. Mode is true, which basically means if you turn it to false, that means recommended will start. If you turn it to true, that means all items will start. So what do you want? You know, that's totally up to you. Good, it's all working. Copies is just all the copies. We're just saying to go to a new list or a new transform. Then we're just finding them. Pretty simple. We're defining them. This is all under wakes. This really doesn't affect you. We make sure case detect is equal to nothing, and we obviously define tooltip. Here we go. I need to replace this letter. I think I don't know why. Nah, I think it's fine. But okay, apparently I do. I know, obviously there's a few little things that I don't always remove because I forget. So we have a few regions. We've got the build into. So essentially this is going to find the full price and the build into. So here we go, well, the key.value.bought is equal to false, obviously. And then we say the full price is equal to the recipe price. Pretty obvious. And then so essentially it's going to start. Now I know this seems a bit weird, but so we're starting off by making every item saying your full price is equal to your recipe price. And then we're going for each item. If each item builds into something else, we could actually cut this out. I don't know why we have this. I mean, this is here, right? So we just kind of do the same thing. We just kind of put this here. Look, we're making one last one. It really does not matter, by the way, because it's in awake, so it really does not cause any real problem. But I guess we could do this, and we cut down a whole thing. So essentially, full price we're saying is equal to the recipe price. Pretty simple. And then if builds into something, then what we're saying is that value.inventory ID is equal to -1. That should be done before. I think that was even done if. It's done there. Okay. I can't. Okay, there we go. We'll just kind of take this bit out, put this bit in here, take this bit out, because it apparently requires building to set the inventory ID to be equal to -1, which I don't think is proper. I think that should just be done automatically. There we go, regardless. So we're saying that inventory ID to equal to -1. Just so saying it's got no slots, and if it builds into something, then what we're going to say is we're going to say we're going to go for each of the items it builds into, and we're going to make sure and we're just basically saying that the build into I is equal to the. Don't know why we're doing that. Sometimes I'm a bit stupid, it seems. I don't know why. It seems obsolete because we're saying the item, right? Obviously, is equal to the item. But we'll keep that there. I don't know. I was mocking up a bunch of things, so it seems like this is obsolete, but that's fine. So we'll look here. We're saying the full price is plus or equal to the key.value full price. Pretty useful there. What that means is that we'll start. Remember, when you're building items, you gotta make sure that all your base items are always added first, right? Because they're the ones that will be done first. So if you have an item that will build into something, and that item that will build into something is after the item it will build into, then that will cause problems. You gotta make sure that all your base items are at the bottom, and the very base items at the very bottom, and the very big top items at the very top. Have an ordering system. Saying the full price, this is not needed here. I think even here, I don't think this needs to be done here, but I don't know. We'll keep this thing here. we're saying update the database, and then we're going to refresh the shop window. We're going to make sure now the window is set to deactivate, and then we're just going to add a bunch of item names, and it seems that's quite easy. What this allows us to do is this allows us to get an item name and convert it into a name. And then item names can take a name, and basically that's it. It's just those item names. I don't think we should ever use item names really though. So this is why I don't know why. Like I feel. Do you know we do? Oh yeah, we use item names for searching. We use other names for some other stuff. I'll show you that a bit later. So mode is obviously obvious. That's for recommended. So if mode is false, then recommended is on. Else it no. If mode is true, yeah. If mode is true, then it's off. If mode is false, then it's on. That's just done really slightly, kind of maybe. Okay, if the window is actually active, then what we're going to do is we're going to do all this stuff. Else we don't need to check. We don't need to do all this stuff if the window isn't active. We actually probably don't even need to do this if the window is active. So why don't we just cut down a bit of it? Okay, if you actually have changed the search bar text, then what we're going to do is we're going to delete every child of the search bar, and then what you wrote, if it's related to any item, including spacebars, if we don't want them, yeah, you can fix it if you don't want it, then it will do it. And how you fix it is essentially what you do is we do want spacebars, but the problem is if you add a spacebar, then obviously all items will have that if they've got a spacebar. But I don't know, do you want that? Do you not? But you kind of want it, you kind of don't. I don't know. Essentially what we're saying is we're saying if the item names contains that text, then we do it. And the reason that we go around capitals is because we set them both to lower, so it doesn't matter any capitals. There's two ways you can do it. You can set them both to higher or set them both to lower. Lower makes more sense. And then we're going to build the item in shop, which essentially just says build it. You know, it's obviously building it. And then build item in shop. What it is it's one of the biggest things here, and it's one of the greatest things. And essentially what it does is, we gotta find it, is it asks for an ID of the item and asks for a parent, and then it creates the item, sets the parent, sets the item for the shop data, sets the tooltip, sets the setup, and it's just a great thing because you use it for everything, even recommended everything, because all it requires is a parent and a shop. It's actually a really nice one. I'll be talking about that a bit more later. And then we just say cage test is equal to this to prevent infinite loops. Great. If your search bar isn't empty, then set the game mode to true or set to false. Pretty obvious. And also, if our search bar is true, then we actually deactivate the list of all items, so we only have the search bar items. That way, it makes it a bit nicer. You could do the same for you could also turn off the recommended. It's pretty easy. Obviously, parent2.gameMode.set active, false or true, whatever regards. But that's not really too big of an issue. Then we're setting the copies to inventory, pretty easy. And then obviously I'm looking to obviously tell you about it now, but this means that if our window is deactivated, then it's going to turn off the tooltip. This is really useful. For example, sometimes if you have your tooltip on and then you deactivate it, it'll turn off where otherwise it wouldn't. Now it's gonna bug out. It's gonna go. That's just important things. So as you see, if I go on here and then I go off, it will obviously happen. And sometimes you have to do something like that, but yeah, it's pretty good, I think. Obviously, this if by the way, this little thing, if it's over, it doesn't matter, because one of the big things about the tool tip is that it's got this canvas group, and this canvas group says it's not interactable and it doesn't block raycasts. That's really important, because otherwise you would have this flashy tooltip that would flash on and flash off, because it would block the raycast. So thus it would go, oh, your cursor isn't over the the item, so turn off the tooltip, then go, oh, it's back on, turn it back on, and you get this flashiness. So important that you have that. That's one of the big things that you need to set up. The rest of it's pretty self-explanatory, like iron does and stuff. This is kind of confusing, but it's all covered in my explaining Moba, but I will cover it a little bit here. But this is more explaining the scripts, by the way. So, well, we have gone up to 30 minutes. This is going to be a slightly longer episode because of that. I'm not going to go into the undo set. That'll be another time. The add shop items is simple. We just yeah, just for simplicity, good for later if you want cases. Yeah, that's good. Good me, yeah. Refresh shop window, I'll show it next time. Buy them, I'll show it next time. To database. Sell items pretty easy. We check if the texture does not occur null because we can't actually check if the item does not occur null because it's got a few floats and not floats. Is that floats? Yeah, it's floats and integers because they can't be null. And also you can't check if classes equal null because of how it works. So we have to check if the texture doesn't equal null because we conclude that all items will have a texture. Then if that is true, then it will remove the item. This is just inventory, and this is stats. So you'd have your play inventory and say, hey, I want to remove this item. And then it's at this, basically you're saying an item at this index, and then you want to increment your gold. This is all incrementing gold, and this is why I'm saying full price. And then we add a new undo, which we'll talk about later, and we're updating our database, which we'll talk about later. So, see you guys next time.